Hollywood is full of big names, big egos, and even bigger rivalries. Some are friendly, some are hidden, and some get so intense that they change careers forever. And right now, one rivalry is making headlines: Will Smith versus Jim Carrey. After the infamous Oscar slap, Jim Carrey didn't hold back. He publicly called out Hollywood's hypocrisy, making it clear that he had no respect for Will Smith's actions. But was this just his opinion, or is there a deeper reason why Will Smith fears Jim Carrey? So, what's the real story? Why does Jim Carrey's presence make Will Smith uncomfortable? And is Eddie Murphy exposing a bigger Hollywood truth? Stay with us, because this is not just another celebrity feud. It's a power struggle that could change Hollywood forever. The power of Hollywood rivalries. Why the industry creates feuds. Hollywood is not just about making movies. It's a business where competition and power control everything. While fans see actors smiling on red carpets and supporting each other at award shows, behind the scenes, many of them are secretly competing for success. The industry loves rivalries, whether they are real or created by the media. These feuds keep audiences entertained, keep stars in the headlines, and sometimes even help careers grow. For years, Hollywood has pushed certain actors and comedians against each other. It's not just about talent. It's about who can stay the most relevant, the most successful, and the most loved by the public. Some stars embrace these rivalries, turning them into friendly competition, while others take them very personally. This is exactly what seems to be happening between Will Smith and Jim Carrey. Even though both are talented and successful in their own ways, their opposite personalities and different views on Hollywood have put them in a silent feud for years. And after the Oscar slap, their tension became impossible to ignore. But before we dive into their issues, let's talk about why Hollywood keeps creating these feuds and why the industry actually benefits from these rivalries. Hollywood has always had famous feuds that kept fans interested. Back in the day, there was a rivalry between Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor, as many people saw Eddie as the next Pryor. Then there was the constant comparison between Will Smith and Denzel Washington, since both were powerful black actors competing for top roles. In comedy, there have been unspoken battles between Kevin Hart and Chris Rock, with people debating who is funnier. These rivalries aren't always personal, but they exist because the industry only allows a few people to be at the top at the same time. If one actor or comedian is doing well, it often means another has to fight harder to stay relevant. This is why stars like Jim Carrey and Will Smith, who once ruled the box office, now find themselves in a battle for respect and legacy. Jim Carrey and Will Smith may seem like completely different types of actors, but they actually have a lot in common. Both started their careers as funny, energetic entertainers, both became huge movie stars, and both built family-friendly public images. But here's the difference. While Will Smith has always tried to protect his reputation and play by Hollywood's rules, Jim Carrey has never been afraid to call out the industry for its flaws. This is where the tension between them really started. Jim is someone who never holds back, while Will has spent his entire career carefully controlling how people see him. Jim doesn't care about being politically correct or staying on Hollywood's good side, and that makes a lot of big stars uncomfortable, including Will Smith. The unspoken tension between them had been building for years, but it finally exploded after the Oscar slap. Will Smith shocked the world when he walked on stage and hit Chris Rock for making a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith. Many celebrities stayed quiet about the situation, not wanting to pick a side, but Jim Carrey did the exact opposite. In an interview right after the Oscars, Jim completely called out Hollywood, saying the industry was spineless for giving Will Smith a standing ovation after the slap. He even said that if he were Chris Rock, he would have sued Will for $200 million. Jim's comments made it clear he had no respect for what Will did. This moment changed everything. Jim didn't just criticize Will's actions. He exposed the double standards in Hollywood, making the industry look weak for allowing Will to walk away without consequences. And whether Will admits it or not, Jim's words damaged his reputation even more. Will never responded to Jim's comments, but sources say he wasn't happy about it. After spending years working to protect his clean image, he suddenly found himself at the center of huge backlash, and Jim Carrey was one of the loudest voices making sure the world didn't forget it. So, Was this just Jim speaking his mind? Or did he have a bigger reason for calling out Will Smith? According to Eddie Murphy, Jim Carrey has always been one of the few actors in Hollywood who tells the truth. And that truth makes a lot of people uncomfortable. And that brings us to the real question. Why does Will Smith fear Jim Carrey? What does Jim know that Hollywood doesn't want exposed? Jim Carrey's unfiltered nature, why he rattles Hollywood. Jim Carrey is one of Hollywood's most iconic actors, known for his wild comedic style, unforgettable roles, and unpredictable energy. But beyond his ability to make people laugh, there's another side to Jim Carrey, a side that Hollywood isn't comfortable with. Unlike most celebrities who carefully protect their image and avoid saying anything controversial, Jim Carrey doesn't care about playing by the rules. Over the years, Jim has built a reputation as someone who says exactly what's on his mind, no matter how uncomfortable it makes people. He isn't afraid to criticize Hollywood, call out hypocrisy, and expose the darker side of fame. And that's exactly why so many celebrities, including Will Smith, are uneasy around him. But what makes Jim Carrey so different? And why does his fearless honesty make Hollywood nervous? In Hollywood, most actors follow an unspoken rule. Don't rock the boat. Many stars choose their words carefully, avoid controversial topics, and never publicly criticize the industry, because speaking out could cost them roles, sponsorships, and their reputation. Jim Carrey, on the other hand, has never followed that rule. From the very beginning of his career, Jim refused to be controlled by Hollywood's expectations. While many actors carefully craft their public personas, Jim has always been brutally honest about his experiences, his struggles, and his opinions on fame. In interviews, he has openly talked about how Hollywood treats actors like products, how the industry manipulates public perception, and how fame is nothing more than an illusion. One of his most famous quotes sums up his thoughts perfectly. "I think everybody should get rich and famous and do everything they ever dreamed of so they can see that it's not the answer." Jim has seen firsthand how Hollywood builds up stars, only to tear them down later. And instead of playing along, he has made it his mission to expose the truth. Hollywood has always rewarded actors who follow the system, those who play the game, keep their scandals private, and never challenge the status quo. But Jim Carrey is a wild card. One of the reasons Hollywood doesn't like him speaking out is because he has nothing to lose. Unlike younger actors who rely on Hollywood for their careers, Jim has already made his fortune, and his legacy is secure. He doesn't need industry approval anymore, which means he can say whatever he wants without fear of consequences. He has called out major industry figures, spoken about the dark side of fame, and even criticized Hollywood award shows. In one interview, he famously said, "We don't matter. None of this matters. This is all just an illusion." For an industry that thrives on power, prestige, and image, hearing one of its biggest stars say that Hollywood is meaningless is a nightmare. And this is exactly why Will Smith and other celebrities feel uneasy around Jim Carrey, because he isn't afraid to say things that could ruin their carefully crafted public images. The tension between Will Smith and Jim Carrey wasn't always this obvious. For years, they both existed in Hollywood without directly clashing. But when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock at the 2022 Academy Awards, Jim Carrey finally spoke out in a way that made their differences impossible to ignore. While many celebrities stayed silent about the incident, Jim went on national television and called out Hollywood's hypocrisy. He didn't just criticize Will's actions, he exposed the entire industry's double standards. In an interview, he said, "I was sickened by the standing ovation. I felt like Hollywood is just spineless en masse." He also said that if he were Chris Rock, he would have sued Will Smith for $200 million because that video will be played forever. This wasn't just about defending Chris Rock. It was about challenging Hollywood for protecting Will Smith instead of holding him accountable. And suddenly, Will Smith wasn't just facing backlash for the slap. He was now being openly criticized by one of the biggest names in Hollywood. Will Smith has spent his entire career building and protecting his public image. He has carefully shaped himself into the perfect movie star. Funny, likable, family-friendly, and controversy-free. But Jim Carrey doesn't believe in false Hollywood images. He believes in exposing the truth. And that's what makes him so dangerous to people like Will Smith. By calling out the hypocrisy of Hollywood, Jim indirectly called out Will's entire career. He made it clear that people like Will Smith, who have worked so hard to appear perfect in the public eye, are not as untouchable as they think. Jim's words reminded everyone that Hollywood isn't real and that the stars they admire are just playing roles both on and off screen. This is exactly why Will has never responded directly to Jim Carrey's comments. Because if he does, he risks opening up a conversation about his past, his mistakes, and the truth behind his Hollywood success. And with everything that has already come out about Will Smith, from his troubled marriage with Jada Pinkett Smith to the secrets Hollywood insiders have hinted at for years, the last thing he wants is to go to war with someone who isn't afraid to reveal the truth. The Oscars slap, why it changed everything for Will Smith. The night of the 2022 Academy Awards was supposed to be a celebration of cinema, but instead, it became one of the most controversial moments in Hollywood history. Will Smith, a beloved actor who had spent decades building his career and public image, made a decision that changed everything in just a few seconds. When he walked onto the Oscars stage and slapped Chris Rock, the world was stunned. Some saw it as an emotional reaction, while others believed it was the moment that exposed the real Will Smith, a side of him that Hollywood had never seen before. For years, Will had been known for his carefully crafted reputation. He was the actor who never got into scandals, always smiled for the cameras, and gave motivational speeches about positivity and personal growth. But that one slap destroyed the image he had worked so hard to create. Almost immediately, the internet exploded with reactions. Some people defended him, saying he was simply standing up for his wife, while others believed he had just thrown away his career in front of millions. The fallout was swift and brutal. Within days, Will Smith was banned from the Oscars for 10 years, and multiple studios paused or canceled his upcoming projects. The industry that had once celebrated him was now unsure if it wanted to continue supporting him. But the biggest shock came not from the public or from the Academy. It came from Hollywood insiders like Jim Carrey, who didn't hold back in calling out the double standards of the industry. Jim Carrey's reaction to the slap was immediate and unforgiving. In interviews following the Oscars, he made it clear that he was disgusted by how Hollywood reacted. He called the standing ovation that Will received after winning Best Actor spineless, saying that the industry was too afraid to stand up for what was right. He even suggested that Chris Rock should sue Will for $200 million, arguing that the slap would never be forgotten and would continue to be replayed forever. For Will, this public criticism was a nightmare. Up until that moment, he had been a Hollywood favorite, someone who had carefully avoided controversy for decades. But now people weren't just talking about what he did to Chris Rock, they were also questioning everything about his personal life. The slap opened the door for the media and fans to dig into his past, his marriage, and his struggles behind the scenes. Suddenly, people weren't just seeing Will as an actor anymore. They were seeing him as a man dealing with deep personal issues. One of the biggest reasons why the Oscars slap became such a huge controversy is because it wasn't just about violence on stage. It was about power, control, and public perception. Hollywood has always been a place where image is everything, and for years, Will had played the game perfectly. He was the ultimate movie star, someone who could be in action films, comedies, and dramas while remaining universally loved. But that moment showed that his emotions had gotten the best of him, and suddenly people were seeing him not as a superstar, but as a man who had lost control. The fact that he slapped Chris Rock, another black comedian, made the situation even more complicated. Instead of the moment being seen as a personal conflict, it became a discussion about black men in Hollywood, the pressures they face, and the way the industry treats them. Some believed that Will's reaction was built-up frustration from years of being the nice guy, while others saw it as a privileged actor thinking he could get away with anything. Meanwhile, Chris Rock handled the situation in a way that only made Will look worse. Instead of retaliating, he laughed it off and continued the show. He didn't press charges. He didn't demand an apology. He let the world judge Will for his actions. And that's exactly what happened. The media, social media, and Hollywood insiders tore Will apart, questioning if he was ever as likable and in control as he made himself seem. At the center of all this was Jim Carrey, who saw the Oscars slap as a reflection of everything wrong with Hollywood. He wasn't just angry at Will, he was angry at how the industry handled the situation. He pointed out that if any other actor had done the same thing, They would have been removed from the event immediately, but because it was Will Smith, the industry chose to ignore it, at least for that night. Jim's words carried a lot of weight, and they forced people to see the situation in a different way. Instead of just focusing on the slap itself, people started to question why Hollywood allowed it to happen in the first place. Why did so many powerful people clap for Will after he assaulted someone on live TV? Why did it take so long for the Academy to announce consequences? And why did some actors, like Jim Carrey, feel so strongly about it while others stayed silent? The biggest impact of the Oscar slap was that it completely changed Will Smith's career forever. He went from being one of the most beloved actors in the world to someone who was now controversial, unpredictable, and difficult to work with. Even though he apologized multiple times, the damage was already done. Studios weren't sure if they could trust him anymore, and audiences were divided on whether they wanted to support him again. But for Will, the biggest problem wasn't just losing projects or industry support. It was losing the respect of his peers. Jim Carrey wasn't the only one who had negative things to say. Many actors, directors, and producers stopped defending Will, and some even admitted that they were disappointed in how he handled himself. Now, Will Smith is in a position where he has to rebuild his reputation from the ground up. Some believe he can do it, while others think his perfect image is permanently destroyed. The Oscar slap may have lasted only a few seconds, but its impact is something that Will Smith will have to deal with for the rest of his career. But here's the real question. Was this just a personal mistake, or was it a sign of deeper struggles in Will Smith's life? Because behind the scenes, there have been whispers about Will's personal issues for years, and now those whispers are getting louder. Will Smith's secret struggles, the cracks in his public image. For decades, Will Smith was Hollywood's golden boy, a charming, talented, and universally loved actor who seemed to have it all. From his early days on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air to his massive success in blockbuster films, Will carefully built an image of being funny, family-friendly, and drama-free. But behind the scenes, things weren't as perfect as they seemed. The Oscars slap wasn't just a random act of anger. It was a moment that revealed deep cracks in Will Smith's carefully crafted public image. For years, there had been whispers and rumors about the struggles he faced in both his personal and professional life. And after the slap, people started looking closer. Suddenly, Will wasn't just seen as the nice guy who made a mistake. He was seen as someone who had been hiding his real emotions for years. One of the biggest challenges in Will's life has been his marriage to Jada Pinkett Smith. While they have always presented themselves as a power couple, their relationship has been surrounded by controversy and speculation for years. In 2020, Jada openly admitted to having an entanglement with singer August Alsina, a much younger artist, while she and Will were going through a rough patch. The revelation shocked fans, but what was even more surprising was how calm and composed Will appeared during their Red Table Talk discussion about it. But behind the memes and jokes about his sad facial expressions, many believe that Will was emotionally exhausted. For years, he had been the strong, supportive husband, defending Jada against criticism and avoiding addressing their personal struggles in public. But after the Oscars slap, fans started questioning if Will had been suppressing his real emotions for too long. Was the slap at Chris Rock really about the joke, or was it about years of built-up frustration and humiliation? Another issue that has followed Will Smith for years is the pressure to be perfect. Unlike Jim Carrey, who never cared about Hollywood's approval, Will always wanted to be the biggest and most respected actor in the industry. He worked hard to maintain his clean reputation, taking roles that showcased his talent and avoided controversy. But this pressure to be flawless may have led to internal struggles that the public never saw. In his 2021 memoir, Will, he opened up about his difficult childhood, revealing that he always felt the need to entertain people as a way to avoid conflict. He admitted that he had deep feelings of fear and insecurity, especially when it came to protecting the people he loved. His father was abusive, and as a child, Will felt powerless to stop him. This made him vow to always be the protector, the person who could control situations and make things right. When you put this into perspective, the Oscars slap suddenly makes more sense. It wasn't just about defending Jada. It was about proving to himself that he could finally stand up and take action. But unfortunately for Will, his way of proving himself backfired, leading to the biggest scandal of his career. Another rumor that has followed Will Smith for years is the speculation about his personal life and relationships. Some Hollywood insiders have hinted that Will and Jada have a non-traditional marriage, something they have both denied and avoided discussing in detail. But over the years, many have noticed that stories about Will's private life keep surfacing, leading some to believe that there is more going on behind closed doors than what the public knows. This constant pressure from his career, his personal life, and his public image has taken a toll on Will Smith. The Oscars slap was just the breaking point, but the truth is, Will had been struggling for a long time. He had spent years trying to keep his emotions in check, but in that one moment, he lost control, and the world saw it happen live on television. Now the question is, can Will Smith recover from this, or has the damage been done? Hollywood is known for giving second chances, but only to those who handle their comebacks the right way. Will has apologized multiple times, but will that be enough? Or is this just the beginning of a bigger downfall? Eddie Murphy's role, a peacemaker or another truth teller? For decades, Eddie Murphy has been one of Hollywood's most respected and legendary comedians. Unlike many of his peers, he has managed to stay out of major controversies, focusing on his career and maintaining his reputation as a comedic genius. But now, with Will Smith's public image in crisis and Jim Carrey exposing Hollywood's flaws, Eddie Murphy has unexpectedly entered the conversation, and people are wondering why. Unlike Jim Carrey, who openly criticizes Hollywood and calls out hypocrisy, Eddie has always been more careful with his words. He knows how the industry works, and instead of challenging the system, he has learned how to play the game without getting caught in drama. That's why his recent comments about Will Smith have surprised many people. At the 2023 Golden Globe Awards, Eddie Murphy was honored with the Cecil B. DeMille Award for his incredible contributions to film and comedy. During his speech, he joked about the Oscar slap, saying, "There's a blueprint for success in Hollywood. Pay your taxes, mind your business, and keep Will Smith's wife's name out your expletive mouth." The audience erupted in laughter, and the moment instantly went viral. But while it was a funny joke, it also showed that Eddie Murphy was not ignoring what happened. He was addressing the controversy in a way that was safe, yet impactful. Unlike Jim Carrey, who openly criticized Will Smith, Eddie took a lighter approach, using humor instead of anger. Many people see Eddie Murphy as a peacemaker, someone who understands Hollywood's power struggles, but doesn't get involved in conflicts. Instead of attacking Will Smith like Jim Carrey, he simply acknowledged the situation in a way that allowed people to laugh and move on. Some believe this is his way of helping Will recover from the scandal, showing that even something as serious as the Oscar slap can eventually become just another Hollywood joke. But others believe Eddie Murphy's joke was more than just humor. Some think he was sending a subtle message, a reminder that no matter how powerful someone is in Hollywood, their mistakes will always be remembered. The influence of Jim Carrey and Eddie Murphy, could they expose more? Hollywood has always been a place of secrets, power struggles, and hidden agendas, but every now and then, certain celebrities break the silence and speak the truth. Right now, two of the industry's biggest legends, Jim Carrey and Eddie Murphy, are at the center of a growing conversation. While their approaches are very different, both have proven that they are not afraid to challenge Hollywood's carefully crafted image. Jim Carrey has always been outspoken, calling out hypocrisy, corruption, and the illusion of fame. After the Oscar slap, he made headlines by criticizing Hollywood's response, saying that the industry was spineless for celebrating Will Smith after his violent outburst. Jim has never hesitated to expose the dark side of the entertainment world, and with nothing to lose, many believe he could reveal even more shocking truths. Eddie Murphy, on the other hand, has always been more strategic. He understands the politics of Hollywood and knows how to stay on the industry's good side. But his joke about Will Smith at the Golden Globes showed that he's paying attention, and that even he isn't afraid to bring up Hollywood's biggest scandals. Some believe Eddie's humor is his way of hinting at deeper truths without openly exposing them like Jim Carrey does. The real question now is, will these two legends continue to pull back the curtain on Hollywood, or will they step away before things go too far? Jim Carrey has already hinted that he's done with Hollywood, stating that he is happy to retire and live outside the spotlight. But before he disappears completely, could he drop one final truth bomb that shakes the industry? Eddie Murphy, meanwhile, remains careful with his words, but he has seen and experienced enough in Hollywood to know how the game is played. If he ever decided to fully speak his mind, there's no telling what secrets he could reveal. What's next for Will Smith? Can he recover? Will Smith's career has been through its biggest challenge yet, and now the question is, can he recover? Hollywood is known for giving second chances, but only to those who handle their comebacks carefully. Will has apologized multiple times, but many still question whether he has truly taken accountability for his actions. His projects were delayed or canceled, and while some have started moving forward again, his reputation is not fully repaired. To rebuild his career, Will needs to regain public trust. He must choose his next roles wisely, stay out of controversy, and prove that he has grown from this experience. But with Jim Carrey and other Hollywood voices still calling out the industry's double standards, Will's road to redemption won't be easy. The world is watching. Will he rise again, or has his time at the top already passed? The Hollywood industry is always changing, but one thing is certain: scandals, rivalries, and truth-tellers will always shape its future. Will Smith is trying to rebuild his reputation, but with Jim Carrey fearlessly calling out Hollywood's hypocrisy and Eddie Murphy watching from the sidelines, his comeback won't be easy. Jim Carrey and Eddie Murphy hold more power than people realize. Whether they choose to expose more secrets or stay silent, their influence on Hollywood remains strong. As for Will, only time will tell if he can truly recover or if the Oscars slap will define his legacy forever. What do you think? Can Will Smith make a full comeback, or has his career been permanently damaged? Let us know in the comments. And if you love deep dives into Hollywood's biggest stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more explosive updates. See you in the next one.